We are here inside of legendary Church Street Gym, downtown Manhattan, to talk about one of the best fights you can make in the light heavyweight division. David Benavidez, David Morrell. I got my guy with me, Chris Algieri, and we're going to talk about this fight at length. Chris, this is two of the best light heavyweights. This is two young, hungry fighters that want to reach the mountaintop. And inside of the ring, I don't see how this fight is not going to be fireworks.
No, I love this fight. I love this matchup. The fact that these guys are taking the risk to fight each other at this point of their careers, it's something we don't see anymore. But in terms of what's going to happen inside the ring, I don't really know. There's so many ways this can go because of the way they match up and because of how good both guys are.
We're going to talk about what David Benavidez does great, what David Morrell does great, some game plan, some picks. First, David Benavidez. Let's start with David Benavidez, the Mexican monster. Guy throws punches in bunches, has a gas tank that just never runs on empty, is on a real superstar type of trajectory. I like that word. But let's start with David Benavidez does great.
Yeah, I mean, the guy has a very quick jab. He's a fantastic combination puncher, like you said. Just fast hands. And he sets a pace, man. He puts it on you. And that pressure tends to break guys down, so I see him getting a lot of late round knockouts. And
now another thing with Benavidez, too, is I think pressure is going to be a big point, talking point in this fight, because he has a guy in front of him that can move in Morrell. We'll get to Morrell in a second. A guy that is around his age. One thing about Benavidez, has been fighting older fighters, but now he's looking at a guy. He's staring down a guy that I wouldn't say fights exactly like him, but there's some similarities.
I mean, it's a different kind of pressure. So I think that Morrell's actually a pressure fighter as well, but he does it by making you work so hard. It's not so much like I'm just throwing a million punches, because he's not gonna match David Benavidez punch for punch, but he doesn't need to. He's gonna be smart about it, and he can punch. I think he actually has the power advantage in this matchup.
What would you say about Benavidez that you've seen over the last couple of years? As he's went from, obviously he's been a champion since he was like 21 years old, but I would say over the last 18 months, he's kind of taken it to another level. Absolutely. What have you seen from him skill-wise?
I saw I saw his boxing IQ. I think it's really grown. He didn't really need to show it in past fights, but now that he stepped up in class, you're starting to see he's got a really good jab, a very underrated jab. It's very, very quick. He sets up those combinations great by starting off with that jab. He has that pressure, of course, which is easy to see, but I think he's actually a lot smarter than people give him credit for.
Chris, when you talk about David Benavidez, you don't really think of a jab. You think of all the power punches that he throws, but as we know as boxing fans and as boxing purists, how do you set up the power shot? The jab. And he does it pretty damn good.
Yeah, very underrated jab. It's very, very quick. He throws it at different ranges too. He varies it up really well. There's a long range, mid range. But like you said, he's getting himself in position to let those combinations fly. But David Morrell's a southpaw. Oftentimes it's difficult to land the jab on a southpaw. You get those lead hand kind of matching, and you're out here pawing. So it's going to be really important for Benavidez to get that jab. He's a taller man, to get over that lead jab of the southpaw so he can come over the top of that jab consistently, and also make sure that he's moving the right way, can put himself in position to land that jab. So for them, it's going to be a battle of the lead hands quite a bit. We'll often always talk about the battle of the lead foot, but this is going to be a battle of both of these guys. So
when you're Benavidez' lead foot, you hear about this all the time. Where does Benavidez' lead foot want to be?
Great question. So you always want to have your foot on the outside. So,
and then I'm Morrell. He's trying to
get you get this battle of the front foot.
You're out of the ring.
You get this battle of the front foot that often happens. And it happens. Guys step on. I want to step on your J's.
Step on my Jordans.
Guys step on their shoes all the time. And I can actually use this as a tactic. I can step on that and then use my jab from there. So being on that outside allows me to have that position to be able to jab over the top.
Another great thing we see from Benavidez is his footwork.
Yeah.
Cutting off the ring, getting guys into positions they don't want to be, and then he unloads. So how does he do that?
Yeah, it always makes me think of that fight with Medina. Just rips off a combination of like 17 punches. Now, in order to do that, you got to get the guy in the right position. So again, all right, so we started with that jab, but Morrell can move. He's a good lateral movement guy. So he can be moving around and getting outside that hand and being difficult to track. That's why Benavidez has to make sure that he's cutting off the ring and not following Morrell around the ring. So as you're moving around, I don't want to follow you, okay? I want to cut you off. So as Morrell moves this way, I'm going to step with him. I'm going to step with him. I'm going to jab as I step with him. I'm going to keep that pressure on and get him in the position where I can let those hands go.
A big thing in this fight with Benavidez, because Morrell is young and he can move, I think he's going to have a lot of energy and a lot of output late. How's that going to work?
Well, it's going to be a fight of almost about pressure. Pressure busts pipes, but if Morrell can keep the distance, stay away, land those combinations enough, and keep Benavidez off him, he can win this fight. But Benavidez needs to make sure that doesn't happen by maintaining that pressure. So when he's using that jab, he's cutting off the ring. When he does get Morrell to position he wants him, which is against these ropes, he's got to stay on him. Bing, 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 bing. And let those combinations fly, which we know he does so well. So it's about positioning, but also taking advantage of the position when he gets it. All right, we're talking David Morrell Jr., what he does well. Guess what, Dan? He does a lot of things well. But we're going to start off with positioning. He's very good at not breaking position, even when he's on defense and counter posture. So a lot of times, he'll be right in front of you. He'll make you miss. He steps right out of range, but he's always right there to come right back. And for a guy like Benavidez who wants to put tons and tons of pressure on you, that's a great tactic to be able to step out and get right back into position and stop that tide from flowing from Benavidez.
Because Benavidez is going to want to apply pressure one way or another.
Pressure, right.
And Morrell, which I think is the beauty of this fight, I think he's going to be able to stop that pressure.
That's ideally what his strategy is going to be. He's got to stem that flow that Benavidez puts on, that pressure. He's like a rising tide, man. He constantly comes at you. So if Morrell is going to be successful, he's going to have to stem that. So number two, what Morrell does really well is counter punching, and that's going to be extremely important in this fight. Now we talked about we talked about David Benavidez and how many punches he throws. We have a lot of openings for counters, and Morrell's got a good left hand and a good right hook, and the right hook for a southpaw is really dangerous. So as Benavidez starts to put on that pressure, letting those hands go, there's going to be opportunities in between, bang, for Morrell to land either the counter, straight left hand down the middle, or the right hook over the top. He's got an excellent right hook, and that's often really hard to see for orthodox fighters because it goes around their guard, boom, comes over that shot. And when you got a guy who throws a lot of punches like Benavidez, there's a lot of opportunities for counters.
Benavidez throws close to 70 punches around.
Crazy.
And yeah, it's insane. Even at light heavyweight, he was at that pace in his fight with Vadzik. What I love to watch in these types of fights is, will that come down?
Yeah, generally
will the pressure come down? Will he go throw in the 50s? Will he throw in the high 40s? That's something I want to see in this fight because that's not Benavidez's MO. Benavidez's MO is to come forward. Do you think Morrell can kind of stem that with the counters?
Absolutely. I think with his movement, his counters, and the fact that he's a southpaw, it's going to bring those numbers down. He cannot be that busy if Morrell is going to be successful.
Game plan. We'll start with David Benavidez. How does David Benavidez take out Morrell?
I don't think there's really a big secret to it. You know, he puts a lot of pressure on you. He comes on late. When he gets you in position, he lets those hands go. So I think that's going to be the game plan all night. But he cannot let off the pressure, and he can't let Morrell get confident with those counters.
I think a big part of this fight, too, is going to be what Benavidez has late.
Yes.
When he fought Vadzik at 175, I thought it was a good performance. There was a lot of people out there that weren't satisfied with it, which is insane because it's literally his first fight.
And Vadzik's excellent.
Right, Vadzik is a little long in the tooth, but he put up some good resistance, and I thought Benavidez looked outstanding. But in this fight, he's going up against a young lion. He's going up against a guy that will probably look good late in that fight. So I think a big part of this fight for Benavidez is how he's going to carry that power late and carry that productivity late.
Also, it's just doing damage early. I think the more damage you can do to Morrell early is really going to help in that late charge that we expect from Benavidez. If Morrell is just so cagey that he's not really taking any damage and isn't working as hard as Benavidez wants him to, Benavidez could be in trouble late.
And now the game plan for David Morrell. No one's been able to solve David Benavidez. They've come close, but they have not been able to get through to this Mexican monster who throws a ton of punches. What's Morrell going to do in there?
Slow the pace. He's got to create distance. He's got to use that boxing IQ, that athleticism. David Morrell's one of the most athletic guys in the sport today. What he's able to do, in terms of his movement, where he throws his punches from, he is a really, really excellent athletic guy out there. So for him, it's slow down that pace. Don't let Benavidez do what Benavidez does.
Okay, now we talked about Benavidez at 175 in his debut. David Morrell only has one fight at 175 against our guy Hot Rod.
And
I thought that Benavidez looked better than Morrell did at
first time at heavyweight.
I know it's not hard to say that because it's two different opponents, but did you see anything in Morrell at 175 that he did not do at 168?
Well, I didn't see that vaunted power. Hot Rod has been stopped, got stopped by, obviously by Beterbiev, very, very different guy. But also Hot Rod, he fought a little more of a defensive fight. He boxed more, was smart, using that in and out style, and he's a good puncher. But Morrell, I didn't see that oh my, power from him at 175, what we saw at 168. Now, again, could it be just that it was the way the Hot Rod fought? But I want to see if that power that he had at 68 can be carried up to 75.
He's gonna have to keep Benavidez off of him somehow.
He's gonna have to get respect, and he's only gonna do that by landing a big shot.
And if he doesn't get respect early, then I think he's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He's in real trouble because if he doesn't get him late, and when Benavidez seems like he comes on late,
yeah,
like
7, 8, 9. That's when he's
like
on.
a freaking tidal wave. All right, let's talk predictions. This is a really hard fight to handicap. I love this fight. I can't wait until boxing has more fights like this. I'm gonna go with Benavidez. I mean, it's hard for me to pick against him. I thought he looked a little bit better at 175, but I'm not confidently making that pick by any means because I think Morrell is such a wild card and very underrated.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna go Benavidez as well, but like this is like a 60-40 fight for me. Even make a 55-45, fight in terms of predicting who's gonna win. But I got Benavidez. I think the late charge is gonna be big. It just depends on what he can do early. If he can get some damage done early, I think it'll really pay off later down the line. But man, Morrell's a tricky guy, man.
Huge fight in light heavyweight. Could the winner potentially see B-ball or better be? You got to tune in to ppv.com and watch this big time fight.
Bring it.
Bring it.
Bring it. Benavidez versus Morrell in a night of title fights, February 1st. Streaming live on ppv.com. Order now.